Ladies and gentlemen, do you think that the COE prices has gone sky high and it's gone to the point of insanity? Well, part of the reasons is that rich people are really, really driving this demand up. And today, the Minister of Transportation have reviewed some numbers that review that. And I think it is time to impose an ABSD for vehicles. Let's watch on, shall we? So before we start, I know that whatever I say is going to drive a lot of wealthy household very angry. I'll just say this. I think this is a shock therapy that Singapore COE market needs now, and it probably don't need to be a permanent shock. So, but let's hear on to the end of the video where I give my final recommendations. There are pros and cons of doing this. So the argument that I think Singapore needs now is an ABSD for cars, and that's largely because the market has spiraled beyond reason, and it is now hurting the entire economy as well. The COE prices over the last 1 year has shot up tremendously and is breaking record after record. In November, it came down quite significantly, but I don't know whether it'll come down some more moving forward. I hope it does because it is in the right direction to calm down this raging number. But I think that, at $110,000 for category A, it's still very insane. Category B is 115,000. Open category 125,000, or six-digit number. Even the commercial vehicles are at 72,000. So this is just insane numbers. Well, the numbers just came out. The Minister of Transport reviewed this. So the household, HDB household that own two cars and above is 22,000. 20,000 own two cars, 2,000 own three cars in one HDB unit. In a private household is even more. Okay, 46,000 own two cars and 9,000 own three cars. So a total of 66,000 multiple car households right now. So families that own two or more vehicles, despite Singapore's zero growth vehicular policy, this contradiction is glaring. So there's about 500,000 households in Singapore that own cars, and that's reasonable, meaning that cars ownership is reasonable. But owning two or more cars at the without consideration that it could crowd out other people, I think that requires some rethinking. Well, the core idea of a ABSD for cars, or a higher levy for COE, whatever, it's actually nothing new. It's copied after property. You see, why is there ABSD for property? That's because the property is one of the rarest resource that Singapore has, which is land. Cars are taking up land as well, and property prices were going insane. They impose ABSD. Car prices are going insane. Then they logically should impose ABSD as well, right? The first car may be a need. The second car is clearly a luxury. Now, of course, you can argue that some people need two cars, three cars, or whatever. Okay, then I think the logical thing is that if you can afford two cars, maybe you can afford some form of additional buyer's stamp duty. So now, so the idea is not a permanent one. The idea is a short term to mid-term one, just to cool down, bring back sanity. In the words of Singapore government, a circuit breaker equivalent. It's not a permanent kind of thing, as long as the car prices bring back to sanity. Why is it needed now? The COE prices is just insane. Premiums have hit historical high, and I think the market has lost its anchor. And I think there's some form of a speculative and luxury demand, right? Wealthy households are partially driving this up because they own multiple cars, and in some sense, it's a luxury, okay? And not to forget, when car prices goes up, cars, vehicles, all these are used to transport goods, transport costs, and all these, they all drive up, and the cost of Singapore becomes uncompetitive. So for the same reason for land, this is an argument now for transportation, and therefore we should bring it down. And of course, there's some equity, in the market as long as we can bring this down to sanity. So for the same logic, if property have ABSD, there's no reason cars cannot have ABSD. We don't like it, but that's only fair because land is the same underlying resource that property is sitting on, and the same for cars as well. Example of a ABSD for cars could be the first car, 0% levy, second car plus 10% levy, third car plus 25% levy, something like that. And then we review every 2 to 3 years whether this should be a permanent feature for another extension, and a temporary extension or a permanent feature. We can decide later, and it's just to bring everything to cool down, like a circuit breaker, right? So I think that at this juncture, the market really warrants a ABSD as a circuit breaker. Now, by the way, this idea is not from me. This idea have already came out in a big way. There are members of Parliament, Patrick Tay says that the idea of a levy on household owning 2 cars or more is only fair. Business Times in July also talk about a car ABSD model after property. Dr. Samuel Chung from SUTD said that a multiple car ownership remain a niche phenomenon. Targeted policy can effectively limit access without harming the majority. So these are just voices. So this is not a Mr. Loo idea. So before you all throw stone at me, the rich people, these are ideas that already came out in a big way. I'm just, amplifying it because, I'm also supporting this because I need a I need a car at a reasonable price. Now there are counter arguments to this. So hear these counter voices out, right? That when you have more cars, you create more jobs, right? So car repair shop, and you have got petrol station, they create more jobs as well. There is an industry. When you have more cars, you create more jobs. And when you have multiple generation families, they need more vehicles. That's also true. Okay. And there is already a high levy on cars. Why do you need to hit another one, right? So there are these arguments. So there's some rebuttals for this argument. Basically, car COE prices really hurt the whole economy. I talk about it, okay? And a broken car runaway price hurts a hell of people more than that niche industry. And once stability in the car price comes down, maybe some of the ABSD can go away. I think we also should take note that having some fairness to let more Singaporeans own cars, I think it is only fair. Okay, I think it's a lot more fair if you have cars owned by, if you have multiple cars owned by one family, whereas if there's a ABSD, more household can own cars. I think that's maybe some argument of it to be fair. So there are other countries that are similar kind of thing. Hong Kong, there's a second car surcharge. In Norway, there are some environmental tax that's linked to number of cars per household as well. So these are not new, right? This is something that I think is only fair. And I'll just say this, the fact that the minister is pointing this out, I think is already signaling that something might happen. So to sum up, I'm arguing for this is largely because my COE is expiring in January. I have to buy a car. Even if the government were to implement a ABSD, it won't be so fast. So I think I'll still kena. I can always have a choice to delay my car purchase and wait and see whether this happen. Well, it's hard to decide whether this will ever happen. I'll just say this, that if I am a rich man with multiple cars, maybe I'll be very angry of this idea. So really it depends where you sit. So I think that a short-term to mid-term kind of ABSD shock therapy will do Singapore good. Okay. And with that, we'll also hope that the government will come up with something that is more comprehensive in ensuring equity and fairness throughout the whole country. We shall see, right? This part I think will happen. Okay. With this, thank you, and I'll see you for the live stream. Bye bye.